Okay, welcome everybody to this meeting of the Leicestershire Safer Communities Strategy Board for the 30th of June. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Ewan Walters. I work in Democratic Services at the County Council and I do the administration for this committee. We've got quite a few new members joining today. It might be a bit much to go through everybody, but I thought it's just worth pointing out we've got some new CSP chairs. Let's see who's on the line. We've got Darren Woodwis from Harbour is just joining, and also Pat Cumbers from Melton is just joining. So welcome to Pat and Darren. And we've also got Councillor Liz Blackshaw from Charnwood. So welcome to Liz. And Michael Wyatt is the CSP chair for North West Leicestershire. He's given his apologies for today's meeting. So perhaps if everybody else could introduce themselves when they speak, and then hopefully we'll get to know who everybody is. So I'll move on to election of chairman for the 2023-24 year. Do we have any nominations for chairman? Mr. Phillimore?
Thank you, Ewan. I would very much be delighted to nominate Mrs. Debbie Taylor, it's in Councillor Taylor, who has proven herself to be an excellent chair of this committee.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for Mrs. Taylor? Mr. Bannister?
Yes, very happy to second that proposal that Councillor Taylor continues as chair.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for chairman? Doesn't appear to be. Okay, so everybody in favour of Mrs. Taylor being elected as chair? I'll take that as a yes. Thank you very much. Okay, Mrs. Taylor, I'll hand it over to you for the rest of the year.
Thanks, Ewan. Thank you very much for the nomination and support there. Okay, we'll move on to item 3, which is the election of the deputy chair. Are there any nominations for deputy chair? Les?
Thank you, Chair. Again, very delighted to propose Councillor Bannister. Councillor Bannister's knowledge of the criminal justice system is an excellent credential to be vice chair of this committee. Thank you.
I'll second that nomination. Are there any other nominations for deputy chairman? No. Okay. Congratulations, Neil. You are now deputy chairman for the next year.
Thank you very much. Happy to accept.
Okay, on to item 4, which is minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 till 10. So just on to the first, we'll move on to the second page. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6 and page 7. Are we all happy to accept those minutes? Okay, I'll just note on those minutes as well about the warning zone presentation. So 4 of us visited warning zone yesterday and had a fantastic tour around there. So shame more of us couldn't be there, but we had a really good tour around there. So fantastic place. So we learned a lot and took away some. Main thing I took away, they need funding and volunteers, I think was what I took away from there. So if anyone's interested in warning zone, please get in touch. I'm sure they'll be very pleased to see you. So we'll move on to item 5. Any matters arising from the minutes? I haven't got anything. Okay, we'll move on to the action log, item 6, pages 11 to 12. When I read through these, I think most of them are either being dealt with today or there's progress or they're just on hold at the moment. But has anyone else got anything they want to pull out from the action
There was just
log?
a question of the first one about COVID, whether that one gets removed from the action log or whether you still want something coming back on that.
Any thoughts from anybody? Okay. Yeah, let's withdraw that then.
Okay.
Okay, we're happy to accept that action log as it currently stands. I'm sure there'll be other stuff coming forward as we move with new members, etc. So, okay, on to item 7, declarations of interest. Les?
Sorry, Chair, I just grabbed one comment relating to the action log, because the official opening of HMP Foster Way was yesterday, which I did attend. Damien Hines, the Chief Justice, was there. A few others. Excuse me. Go away. Go away. And I have, yeah. I mean, it's been built within Blaby District anyway, so we've been the planning authority all the way through. But it is a stunning development, and the whole methodology and philosophy around it is about encouraging and enabling people to build and design their new futures. It's a cracking place, and it would be really good to see how that evolves over time. So thank you, Chair.
Did you have any declarations, Les?
No.
Okay. Neil?
Yes, thank you. Declaration of interest. I'm employed by the Crown Prosecution Service, but any views that I express in this meeting are entirely my own personal views. I am not here as any representative of the CPS, and I just would like the meeting to note that such views are personal and not professional from my employment.
Thanks, Neil. Okay, no other declarations, so we'll move on to Item 8, so the Safe Communities Performance 2023-24 Q4. So over to you, Carly.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, everyone. My name's Carly. I'm the Service Manager for the Youth and Justice Service at the County Council. I'm representing Rick Basra today because he's on annual leave, and the report that I've been provided with is the standing agenda item around the performance around safer communities. You'll be aware from the report that there's a dashboard, an interactive one that you can work with, and the link is in the report at paragraph 2. But in summary, paragraph 5 really just summarises the report around crime being a slow and steady increase around burglary and vehicle crime, but it's still below pre-COVID levels. It talks about some stability around MARAC referrals for domestic abuse, and that stabilisation now that we're well out of the COVID arena. And then it talks about reports around Sentinel and antisocial behaviour. And I guess with my youth justice hat on, it's probably just acknowledging that we are approaching, well, we are in the summer. We've had some significant incidents with young people over the past couple of months around water. We've had the sad death of a child and lots of children that are doing that. So we're absolutely spreading the word around water safety. So if anyone has the opportunity to do that, I'd really welcome that support. All in all, the key message from the report from Rick really are that the data follows the previous trends. There's nothing outstanding or exceptional, and that all of the data around the domestic abuse and a conversation around that will be in a later agenda item. So the board's just asked to note the contents of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Carly. And just for the new CSP chairs, that dashboard, still definitely worth having a flick around there, and you can pinpoint it to your own area and really delve into the detail there. So I do urge you to have a look at that link, and for this meeting, obviously during your time as a CSP chair, it's really useful to see your data there and how you compare to other districts and across the whole county. And is it East Midlands as well that covers, I think? Yeah,
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, so it's definitely worth you having a look at that. And just that thing about water safety, obviously we went to Warning Zone, they've got the whole section there about water safety and stuff like that. So
yeah.
But that's sort of aimed at the primary schools, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I suppose the ones that are, you know, going into the quarries and stuff like that are sort of the older teenagers. So I just wonder, you know, obviously probably most of them have been through that stuff when they're in primary school, went to Warning Zone, but I suppose it's just how we reinforce that message as they go over, and that peer pressure and stuff like that. I just wonder what more we can do to highlight that.
Absolutely. I think just on the back of the Warning Zone comment, because the we had the presentation last time, didn't we? And a group of our children that are involved in youth justice are working with Warning Zone at the moment about the redesign of some of those areas, about what what they're seeing around risky behaviours now as 16 and 17-year-olds, and the messages that they would want to pass on to those children or their, I guess, their younger selves. So we are in a really good place with Warning Zone in terms of, I mean, we're not giving them finance or volunteers, but actually our children are really engaged in that. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the water's really attractive to young people, isn't it? I live in Melton. I've seen lots of children that are coming out of the rivers there. We've had an incident where children saved another child as well. And I think it's just every opportunity across social media, sharing the videos, talking to any groups of children to really get that across, because it is exciting and it is fun, but the dangers are just they can be tragic, and we've seen that recently.
I think what I picked up as well a bit more yesterday was the antisocial behaviour and the damage of life-saving equipment as well. You know, the rings that are thrown away or damaged, and rope cuts and things like that, isn't it? All that life-saving equipment that kids mess around with. They just don't realise that could possibly save someone's life, isn't it?
I think it's the opportunity to take any informal education, really, and kind of if you're in those opportunities to engage, then just having conversations with people, and that's what we're really encouraging. The Impact team, who are our street-based youth workers at the county council, are sharing those antisocial behaviour messages as well as the messages about keeping safe, drinking water, you know, sun cream when the heat's really hot, you know, those positive messages, but really thinking about what we can do. I can see that Matt from the fire service is wanting to contribute, and has probably got a really good contribution there as well.
Okay, over to you, Matt.
Thank you, and thank you for the build up there. I'm Matt Kane. I'm head of response for Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service, standing in today for Ben B, who's head of our community safety team. I just wanted to kind of reiterate there that we're very keen in Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service to join up any partnership working. We do work closely with Warning Zone as well. If you know of any locations where you think young people might be going to use open water, appreciate people letting us know. We do visit the sites that we know people tend to use and try and discourage people, encourage them towards the managed sites like Rutland Water, where they do have lifeguards available, places like that, and we work closely with those to make sure people are safe there. We're also including some water safety in our schools programme, so all young people, and we do a joined up message with Warning Zone to make sure the same message is being put out there. But really tragic event that took place at Barrow-on-Soar last month. We're very keen to try and avoid those type of events. So if people know of any locations where they think we should be going to visit and talk to young people, drop us a line and we'll try and get out there. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Matt. Just something you just picked up there, saying that they can go to Rutland Water. Are there any? Because I've never heard that before. So, you know, kids that are messing around in quarries or water are just told to get out. But that opportunity to then say, well, if you want to do this with your friends, go here. So is there any other places within the LLR and stuff that they can go safely and do that? Because for me, that's going to help, isn't it? If they can say you can't, it's not safe here, but go here, would send a more positive message rather than just saying, don't go in the water.
I mean, there used to be Bosworth Water Park, but that's now changed its use to more of a private area. So Rutland Water is the only one that I know of at the moment that does have a lifeguard beach. And then, of course, they've got the aqua park with the big inflatables. So we try to encourage people to go and use those sites.
OK, thank you. Les?
I was just going to comment, actually, because we were at Rutland Water 3 or 4 weeks ago when it was really sunny. And I never know that aqua park existed, but it is absolutely brilliant. I'm way too old for it, but it's heavily supervised, all the right gears there. It's in a protected environment. It is a cracking place.
Thanks, Les. David.
Hi, Matt. Just about obviously you swimming in water. We do get quite a lot of melting on our country park. I don't know if you were already aware, but we do get a lot, and especially around this time of year when the weather's very hot. So if you guys could pay some attention up there, that would be really useful for us.
Yeah, I'll follow up with our district manager at Melton, but I do know that we're aware of the incident there a few weeks ago where a child was rescued by some friends. So we'll carry on doing some work in that area.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Any other questions or comments? I think Carly's just put the link in the chat to the dashboard as well. You've got it in your agenda, but it's there for you as well, that in the chat message there. Okay, thanks for filling in for Rick, Carly. Okay, we'll move on to item 9, which is the Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service. So I presume we're back to you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. The report mainly focusing on areas around our prevention and protection. So we do carry out, I think, as most people will be aware, the home safety checks, of which we do over 10,000 a year. Fire safety audits in commercial and tall buildings. Clearly, tall buildings is still quite a heavy focus that Home Office put upon fire and rescue services at the moment. So we carry on with those. We do a number of road safety initiatives, again, working with a lot of young people around road safety. I was going to mention water safety, but we've already done that bit. The report there for people to read asks that you note the contents of the report, and we continue to work where we can in a joined up partnership approach. I'm happy to take any questions that people might have.
Thanks, Matt. Any questions on this report at all? Carly.
Thanks, Chair. Mine's not a question, it's just to acknowledge the partnership work that Matt references, because we are working with the fire service and the police service around the Fatal 4 programme at the moment, so around safer driving for our children. I know there's been a big commitment across the partnership for that, because we have a lot of first-time entrants that are there for driving offences, so we're looking at a different way of working with those. And I know there's been some significant time and effort put into kind of revitalise the programme, so it's just to acknowledge that and to thank everyone across the partnership for the support as well. And I do apologise for bringing up the water safety part. I didn't realise it was in your report, Matt. Sorry.
No, I think it's a really good point to raise, so thanks for that.
Carly, just picking up on what you said about driving offences. So you just said that lots of first time into the justice system is for young. So is there a particular theme of their driving offences, or?
Not particularly. So they're children that are using cars that we refer to children as under 18. So I'm not suggesting they're a 12-year-old doing that, but they present in terms of driving without licenses, but they go through the criminal court because of the need to apply points to a licence. So we are in conversation with the Crown Prosecution Service around doing some diversionary work so that we can do some informal education, which most likely will be the Fatal 4 project for those children. So we're in a good place for that work, but we're trying to do something more creative around the diversionary points within the law to be able to offer that.
Is there a lot, Carly? Is there a lot coming through?
Not a significant number. I mean, we've got low numbers of first-time entrants, but they're the only group really that get dealt with in a different court in a different way, and then they don't come out. They're not open to us as a service, so they appear as part of our statistics, but with no requirement for an intervention. So we're wanting to change that to be doing an education package with those children, so that they then are not at risk of going on and committing further offences or something disastrous.
So they get points on the licence that they haven't got yet, then for the future, can't? Oh, right, through the courts, okay, and then we don't do anything with them, okay.
Yeah,
so just making them aware, the impact of them, what they're doing.
Yeah, we've got no requirement to, and they are dealt with in driving court, so not youth court, and there's no youth outcomes for it. But we can work really positive with the CPS to do some diversionary work, which we would really welcome.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Any other questions for Matt from his report? No, thank you for standing as well. I think all the names I've got written on this agenda are all going to be totally wrong today because everyone's sending someone else. So thanks for stepping in and delivering that report. Okay, we'll move on to item 10, probation service. I know Bob's here.
I haven't sent anyone. So,
no, you haven't. Well done for turning up, Bob. Over to you.
Thank you very much indeed. So first of all, I'll assume that the report has been read, but I just wanted to highlight a few things. There'll be some people on this meeting, or perhaps who've heard me talk about our various issues, which I outline in paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 regarding staffing and workload issues, which I know have been raised nationally as well. Although I would say that they are particularly acute in Leicestershire, and I outline the reasons why they're particularly acute in those first 3 paragraphs. We rightly heard very positive comments about Fossway opening, and I myself share those thoughts of it as well. I think it's a really interesting, innovative place. The downside for us locally is that every prison has a probation team within it. Fossway being such a large prison means it's got a very large probation team in it, which is drawn from communities. So we have lost resources to the Fossway probation team, and we'll continue to do that as it ramps up over the next 9 months. So that is going to continue to be an issue for us. I think also the other impact that Fossway is having is just the general employment landscape. And myself and Carly have had conversations around this. I know that Youth Justice having the same employment recruitment challenges. We're all sort of trying to fish in the same pool, as is Fossway, I think, for quite a lot of their career paths within the various disciplines in Fossway. So I think people who would naturally be attracted to working in Youth Justice or probation are also having quite significant opportunities to work in Fossway as well. So that's obviously, hopefully, it'll be a short-term issue, and once Fossway is fully established and what have you. But at the moment, that's quite an odd. However, we're very actively working with Fossway. Like I say, probation team within there. We've had regular ramp-up meetings with them in terms of how we plan our release processes and what have you, but of course a lot of in fact the majority of releases from Fossway won't actually be LLR individuals. It covers a much bigger area than that, so a lot of the release activity relates to other probation areas as well. I see there's a hand up there. Take a question, Councillor Fillmore.
Thank you, from Chair. So question, because there's clearly an opportunity here. As so Blaby, Hinckley and Bosworth are a joint community safety partnership, and we've long aspired to have a representative from the probation service as part of our strategic planning team. On the basis you're now going to be on Blaby's doorstep with HMP Fossway, is there an opportunity to assign somebody to work with us as a CSP?
Certainly happy to take that away, Councillor. We do have an issue with resources in terms of all the CSPs and what have you, but I think you make a particular point there in terms of now the Fossway opening, so I'll certainly take that away. Absolutely.
Yeah, and if I may clearly, HMV Fossway is in Blaby District.
I know.
Neighbours only in Wigston, so I think it's quite essential that we do build that strong link with the probation service fairly early on.
Noted. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Take that away. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Bob. Just a question from me. Just about what you've set out there, the shortages and workloads and stuff like that. I suppose the question for me is the risk to the public. So are some offenders not being monitored enough or correctly? Right. As they should be.
All I would say is that all offenders are being monitored. So we're not just saying, oh, we'll ignore certain ones. What I mean by concentrating resources, I mean, you'll see there in the bottom paragraph 3, actually, it's the ones that present the most risk, where there are no compromises in terms of the levels of contact and all the work that we do with them. It's the lower risk cases that I think where there are changes, and I can't pretend that if we were fully resourced, we'd be working with those offenders in a different, more intense way. There's no way of sort of sugaring that. I mean, that attaches the reality, but the priority framework is very, very clear and about how we prioritise, and that is very clearly based on risk to the public, and as I've outlined there, the 3 particular categories: domestic abuse, safeguarding, but anyone who's deemed high or very high risk as well falls within no change in terms of the level of input. But I agree with you, it's not ideal in terms of the whole piece, in terms of everyone, but in terms of the prioritisation, that's where it sits.
And the inspection that was done, does that require you to deliver or put together an action plan? And
yes,
done?
Yes, that's been done, and I'm happy to share that. Yes, we've got a lengthy action plan on that, of which we've already started. In fact, 2 or 3 of the main things out there are already completed. I mean, I would say that the timetable of the implementation of the action plan is present us with a challenge in terms of because obviously that's within the context of what's outlined in those paragraphs. But again, those recommendations relating to those priorities are the ones that we've. So, for example, there was an issue around the speed of domestic abuse checks with police and safeguarding checks and the numbers being done. We now not only have dedicated staff who do those checks, but actually we're right in the process now of having direct access with your systems in the county, but also in the city, so that it's our staff who can access the systems to do the checks. So much quicker processes. So that's one example of us making sure that we prioritise and do those important public protection elements of what came out of our inspection.
Yeah, I know that they're difficult questions to ask and difficult questions to answer, because we're all in the same boat, aren't we, with recruitment and retention? So
absolutely.
We're all well aware of the difficulties we're facing. We're all having to do things
exactly. That's one thing I wanted to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I wanted to stress, is that I know that we're not alone in this. That we're all having recruitment challenges, shall we say, and retention challenges as well.
Yeah. So I suppose you're hoping the situation improves once the prison settles down and stuff like that. I think
once the prison, and again, the other thing I mentioned there is that, we do actually have a significant number of trainee probation officers coming through now. In my opinion, a little late in the day, in terms of, we had a bit of a hiatus really in training. That is now ramped up to almost the opposite, where we've got a huge number of trainees, which makes actually it's quite difficult to manage in itself. But in terms of what that means for the next 12 to 18 months, means that we will inevitably be in a much healthier position going forward. It does give us a relatively inexperienced workforce as a percentage going forward. Again, I know other organisations are experiencing that as well. But in terms of numbers, and we will inevitably, because just through the numbers who are due to qualify, in a much healthier position in sort of 9 to 12 months' time.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. If you can send that action plan through, I think it'd be interesting for members to read that, and obviously come back and give us an update to let us know how you're getting on. Darren. I think you're muted, Darren. I can't hear you. Anyway. Anyone else here, Darren? Do you want to put it in the chat, Darren, your question, and then Bob can mention it if you've got something wrong with your mic there. Okay, thanks ever so much for coming along, Bob, and
right, yeah. I mean,
really,
the only other thing to mention was that we mentioned the report, but one thing it did say was it did commend us on our partnership working, which is obviously significant and to this group, but also some of our sort of developments around young adults, which again Carly is well aware of because we work very closely with them around that, and young adult and women offenders. But I'll leave it there, and happy to take any questions and take away the request around CSP engagement and the HMIP action plan.
Brilliant. All right. Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Bob. Good to see you. Okay, we'll move on to item 11, which is the public health update. And Joe, I think you're taking us through this.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Chair. Thanks for inviting us to be part of the agenda today. Yes, Joshua is the usual LSCSB representative, and hopefully it's okay with members of the board that I'll be picking the item up today. I know a lot of you through work with community safety partnerships and senior officer group, and look forward to working with new colleagues on the call today. So the paper that you have in your agenda pack provides a summary of public health services that we feel link in with the priorities of the board and objectives of community safety partnerships, and is an update paper for members. Of course, the public health offer also includes the local area coordination, the First Contact Plus offer, and I understand they were included in a previous update to the board and are well known to partners. However, should any newer members want to find out a little bit more about any other areas that the public health are involved with, I'm happy to be a contact for that. Certain areas to note from the paper are the trauma-informed approach. I know that's part of a lot of colleagues and partners' agendas currently, and public health are no different. And we've got the continuation of the trauma-informed practice training, new trauma-informed schools officer starting over the summer. Details of that are currently being worked through. And the Teen Health Service is now embedded within the Children and Family Wellbeing Service, and with health and wellbeing officers linked to secondary schools, along with a digital offer currently being developed in collaboration with young people. There are many areas being progressed within mental health, public health offer, and that includes the partnership Start a Conversation, suicide prevention campaign with a prevention conference planned for September. There is further progress with the lived experience network to ensure that lived experience of suicide and mental health continue to be integral to the conversations. And also we'll start to see the impact of the neighbourhood mental health prevention and resilience grant funded programmes over the next few months, which is exciting to see. So the paper does provide a summary from across the department. There are a number of areas, as I say, that align with kind of keeping communities safe, and the paper asks members to note the content and also to take it away and raise awareness of services within partner organisations. So yeah, happy to take any questions, and also to take any questions back as well today, and to be a contact outside of this call.
Thanks, Jo. Just a couple from me. That on page 27, the fourth paragraph about the 2-year pilot, the domestic abuse perpetrator early intervention service. I think there was sort of questions earlier, wasn't there, about access to that. Do you know how many people have accessed that since January?
Sorry, Chair, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I know that our colleague who is leading on the commissioning of that service does have regular meetings with Rise Mutual, who are the provider of that service. So I can certainly find out the specific data in regards to the numbers coming through. But I know that Rise Mutual have done a lot to promote the service and are still keen to do that. So should anyone want to find out more or want a training event or a briefing session on what that early intervention perpetrator programme is, then they are happy to do that, but can certainly find out that detail for you.
Okay, and just that coming up in the year, the bottom of page 30, beginning of page 31, the healthy relationships.
Yeah.
So is that started yet, or is that just
that is, as I understand it, that's not started as yet. That was going to be part of the Healthy Schools programme, but I believe that's moved into the new Teen Health Service. So that's
right. That's coming.
That's coming up in the next year. So that's that early help and preventative support for families, and it's really looking at that. I think one of the key areas was the parental conflict, which is raised in a lot of cases from a lot of colleagues and partners. So that's going to be feeding through our Teen Health Service.
Okay, brilliant. Les.
Sorry, I seem to have a question every guest speaker we have. Morning, Jo. Do we have anywhere? So I know what, and my officers know what DA referrals look like within my patch. And I'm sure fellow councillors know what it looks like in their patch. Do we have an overarching qualified numbering count? Because we've got a number of commissioned services. Clearly, from this morning, there's a huge focus on domestic abuse, and quite rightly so. Do we actually have a holistic view of how many DA offence or issues we have across LLR? And if we do, can we start reporting that in, please? So we've got a handle on it. I can see you nodding, Jo.
It's okay to come back on that, Chair. That yes, I understand that was actually on the action log, as well as one of Rick's actions to include in the performance dashboard. And I think that's a broader piece of work. So there's Public Health Commission elements of the service system, as well as the OPCC and the city. So I think there's a broader piece of work that is happening currently in regards to pulling that data together to make sure that that can feed through. So I think in response to the question, Councillor, that's the piece of work that's happening at the minute.
Cool. Thanks, Jo. Leave that one with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Any other questions for Jo on this report from anyone? No. Thanks for stepping in for Josh and Jo.
Thanks, Jo.
Okay. On to item 12, so our modern slavery, human trafficking and organised immigration crime. I think Chris has just joined. Oh yeah, Chris is there. Welcome, Chris. Just want to introduce yourself and take us through this.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Chris Perry. I'm one of the detective sergeants working over in Leicestershire Police in the exploitation team. So, yeah, our exploitation team, we cover child sexual exploitation, child criminal exploitation, and also modern slavery and human trafficking with the organised immigration crime on here. So, I won't bore you with my background. I've been a detective sergeant in this team and covered all three. Modern slavery was about 6-7 months ago, but it forms part of CCE anyway, and some of the investigations that we do. Do you need me to share my presentation with you? I presume I know I sent it over, but I can.
If you can do it quickly, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, if you can put it on the screen, it'd be helpful, Chris.
Let's see if we can. The wonders of modern technology. I'll no doubt fail, but I'll just bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to put myself on mute. Just 2 seconds. What can we see? Is probably the first thing I'll ask you, because I'm on a computer that I'm not used to and my mouse won't go the right way. So I've got 2 screens here. Can you see anything at the moment?
No.
Okay, that's good.
Have you got the? Has you got the presentation?
No. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. See if that.
I'm loading it for you now. I think.
Oh, see if that comes up first. I don't know if you can see that. Bear with me.
That's it, Chris.
Yes.
Perfect. Let me get back on to. Right, there we go. Lovely. So we'll move into I think you've all got the presentation that's been sent across to you. I'm going to hopefully give you. I've only got 20 minutes, haven't I? So I'll have to rattle through it. But a bit of an overview around modern slavery, human trafficking. Some data. I've gone over 4 years just so you can see some comparisons around how things have changed, or not in some cases. Around how many incidents get recorded, how many we have to deal with in Leicestershire Police, how are they reported, a little bit about the national referral mechanism, the single competent authority, particularly around the NRM, and there's various different agencies that can feed into that and do their referrals, and the importance of doing those, some of the challenges we have, and then just touching really on organised immigration. I'm not going to sort of go into too much detail around the organised immigration because it's I think slavery, and I've got 20 minutes, so slavery and trafficking would be the most important one for me. Yeah, slavery and human trafficking. The legislation covers a sort of varying degree of offences, but I'd suggest the one that we come across most in our line of work is the forced or compulsory labour. So, people either within the UK or coming into the UK that are made to work or forced to work in some quite horrible conditions and for very little money, or none in some cases. The difference between people trafficking and people smuggling. I've got that to discuss as well. And I'll move through and you'll see some of the statistics that I've created. I'm just going to double check because I've got a sneaky feeling that I've loaded up the old. I've made a new. I made a new and improved one for you today, but I think I may have loaded the old one. Just bear with me 1 second. Well, we'll move through and we'll find out anyway. So. here we go. Number of reports to police. So you're looking over a 4-year period here, and we've broken it down into month by month. So you can see back in 2019 there was 62 there. I'll come on to why that was so large. It was effectively an operation that we ran called Operation Silk, which was looking at some Romanian nationals that had been employed by a cleaning company, and that actually went to court, and unfortunately we didn't get any convictions, and it's one of the hardest areas of our business is to keep people engaged, and some of the witnesses that we have to work with can sometimes lead quite chaotic lifestyles, language barriers, all sorts of cultural issues that come into play when we're dealing with victims of modern slavery. And unfortunately that case fell away at court because of some of those issues, but there was 62, and the main reason for that on that occasion was a number of victims came forward. But if you look at the rest of the statistics there, they're all roughly around sort of similar. We can go from anything down at sort of 10 up to 31, but the average would be sitting across that 21, 22 per month. It doesn't change too much. They're the sources of information that we get our information that comes to us. So you can see an increase in reporting via 999 and 101 around modern slavery and human trafficking. So back in 2009, we only had 52 incidents reported 999 and 103 on 101. That's our main source of, as you would imagine, that's our main source of people reporting crime. However, we were up to about last year, we were up to 154 and 131, so it's quite a significant increase there. Reasons for that, I would suggest as well that the since 2019, we'd like to think that people's knowledge around slavery and trafficking has increased, and people are able to identify it better and understand it better, and would therefore be more willing to report it through to the police or understand that's where it needs to come to. So that's probably one of the reasons for an increase in that. I may argue as well as there's been an increase in slavery and trafficking incidents themselves over the last 4 years, and quite possibly there has various different business models now for how criminals use people in that respect. So this is a real sort of telling story around the challenges that we have working in the exploitation world. So, taking into account adult victims of modern slavery and human trafficking, and then also looking at children, and most of you will have heard of the term county line, which is a lot of our work around child criminal exploitation. Main reasons for us struggling to get a positive is quite clearly, most of you will understand that the majority of the people that we deal with don't necessarily understand or see themselves as a victim. So most departments where you work in the police, somebody will come to you and say, I've been assaulted, I've been robbed, please help me, this is the information I can provide for you. We can build up a nice evidential picture, we can from various different types of sources, and we can present that to a court. What we struggle with in our area of business is the first and most important is that victim account. So we're approaching victims to say, we think this is happening to you. This isn't right. What can you talk to us about what's happening to you? And people just simply don't identify themselves as a victim. In the modern slavery and human trafficking adult world, a lot of that comes down to people who've come into the UK often with from a very poor background, maybe poorly educated, may have come from an area that's very deprived, very limited access to employment, and they come to the UK and they are paid less than they should be, or they are treated more poorly than we would say is acceptable. However, they are still there's still more money involved in their life than there was previously. So, we approach them and quite clearly can see that from our perspective, things are not as they should be. But they would often rather continue with what is often a very sad existence, but better than one they've come from. So they're some of the challenges that we face in the world of children. Again, what children want is love and affection, it's basic needs, and often in some situations they're maybe not having those needs met, either in the home environment or some of those children that are looked after children. Someone steps into that breach and sort of provides that for them. So again, how do we try and approach that? It's about rapport building, it's about the long process, it's about partnership working, it's about working with social care, working with health, working with education, lots of different partners involved to try and improve the life and safeguard the children that we deal with. So just moving through into national referral mechanism. For those of you that have heard of it, still well used. We brought it in 2009. What it is trying to achieve is trying to ensure that there's support offered to victims or potential victims of modern slavery and human trafficking. Again, children and adults. For adults, as you can see at the bottom, the adults do have to consent to accessing some of the services that are available through the NRM, whereas children don't. We would put a referral through for a child without their consent. And then the SCA, which is a single competent authority, which is a Home Office body, they make decisions based on balance of probability around whether that person is likely to be a victim of slavery or trafficking, based on evidence provided by lots of different partners who are involved in that process. We often will use the NRM, or the NRM can assist some of our victims of some of our adult victims of slavery and trafficking, then we'll actually move them to another area of the UK and provide that housing for them, so they can set up a new life away from those people that have been exploiting them. So that's another really good tool that they provide for us. So different types of exploitation. So I'm presuming the majority of you will have heard of all of those. Yes, we've got cocooning on there, which is a term that I'm hoping everybody's heard. I hope it's out in the communities, and there's lots of information out there for people to try and prevent them from becoming a victim of that, which is, unfortunately for us, the majority of people you will find in that are serious drug users who are very vulnerable and will allow drug gangs to come into their properties and take them over on the basis that they will be provided with some drugs or some cash dependent. And again, it's trying to break that cycle and understanding for communities to report in any concerns they've got around new people turning up and being at addresses. That's really key intelligence that we ask the community to feed into us. County lines drug dealing, I've already sort of touched on that. Again, CCE is the broad term for child criminal exploitation. There's lots of other means of a child being criminally exploited, but county lines is probably the most prominent one that people know about, and what we deal with. Probably 90% of our CCE is probably county lines. Child sexual exploitation, and then human trafficking. Bringing adults into the UK or around the UK for purposes of exploitation, and then there's organised immigration crime as well, which we'll touch on a little bit later. As it says on there, about county lines, the difference, I think most people's knowledge of county line, and certainly I'll even agree mine was before I really understood the term, is that it's the movement across a county line. That's what most people think of it as. Although that is a large part of the business model, that is not necessarily, it's not what the county line means. It means there needs to be some form of vulnerability within the drug dealing aspect. It might be children, it might be adults, but the county line is the actual mobile phone that is used, and there's a term called bulking. So the line phone will send out a bulk load of texts to the customers to say, we're on for coke, we're on for crack, we're on for heroin, whatever it is, and then where the message will come back in about how much people want, and then the runners will be sent out. So they use the one line phone and just hope they don't get caught with it. Cash and firearms are another sort of quite prominent part of county lines activity, the drugs gangs using children more and more to transport cash around for them, and also on occasions, not so much in Leicestershire, but there have been occasions where firearms have been linked into them, into sort of intelligence to say children are moving them. The reason that is because they're less likely to attract attention. There's a term called a clean skin, which is effectively a child that has not really come to the attention of local authorities, schools. It's quite well behaved. It doesn't normally attract any attention when they're out about in the community, and they will often be groomed to join the gang and then used for these sorts of activities because they're less likely, and it's all around, they're less likely to attract attention. Cuckooing, I've sort of just mentioned that. I think, yeah, trappings or trap houses is again quite a well-known term nowadays. That's just similar to some of these houses been taken over. They'll often use abandoned houses as well, or houses. A new one seems to be that we've seen more recently is houses, new builds that are not being lived in, that are waiting for people to move in. And again, we're seeing some of those have sort of been taken over to cut up the drugs and stash them. Again, big thing there about market towns. People, certainly I'm not going to name and shame, but there's certainly some market towns which we've had dealings with that don't think they've got a problem. And I'm not saying it's endemic. I'm just saying it in every single town there is some form of drug dealing going on. We all know that, and it's just about gathering that intelligence, reporting it the right way, and allowing us to build up a picture. Yeah, we talked about the fact that they don't see themselves as victims. That's the one big problem we have. You need to be reporting it in via 101 999 Crime Stoppers if you want to remain anonymous. Speak to your local beat team if you know who they are. These are all the sorts of things we'd push out into the community to try and build up that intelligence picture and that information that we really rely on. That's where we gather most of our information from to allow us to take action and to safeguard the children that need it. Organised immigration crime, it is basically, as it says on there, it's illegal facilitation of migrants across borders by OCGs, organised crime groups. Can be some people smuggling. There's supply of false fraudulent documents, so they look genuine. They're attained they are attained by illegal means, often by going out of the UK to find documentation which can support gaining a real life document, but the document they use is normally fraudulent. And then so abuse of legitimate means to enter, remain in a third country, and also other areas of travel that can lead to people coming into the UK. So that's a lot more prevalent in the news, and certainly within our team, that's an area of work that's sort of increasing as you can imagine over the last few years. We deal with it because our department head has it within his portfolio, but actually there's a lot of other agencies that will be involved, such as the Special Operations Unit, the NCA, National Crime Agency. These sorts of people will also be involved in this because it is very well organised. That is just an example that you'll all remember, the unfortunate incident that happened back in Essex, where 39 people horrendously lost their lives in the back of a lorry that had been brought into the UK. The bit in red, it can happen anywhere. It does. We've had incidents in Leicestershire where we've had people found within the back of lorries that have, could have easily been in, like these unfortunate 39, but weren't. And as you can imagine, it's positive action that will always be taken against those that are trying to go down this line, but it's getting to the top of the tree, which is always a difficult thing. But that's why we rely on our partners in the NCA and places like that to build up that picture. And I think, yeah, that's me 15 minutes, and so I've got 5 minutes or so for any questions that people may have on that, because I did rattle through it relatively quickly. I do appreciate that. But if anyone's got any questions for me, I'm more than happy to stay on and answer them as best I can.
Thanks, Chris. Really useful information on there. I'm sure people will take the slides away in the pack and study them a bit more. I've just got the one question on that about the convictions. So
yes,
that's really, really low, isn't it?
Really low.
Really low. And lots of so many unknowns. And do we know why? Is it mainly just the victims, or?
Yes, I think the judiciary are becoming more and more aware of modern slavery. I mean, the Modern Slavery Act only came in 2015. So if you think about English law, it's very new compared to the ones that have been around for a long, long time. Certainly at the beginning, there was a real lack of understanding in the police, with other partners, and again into the sort of the judiciary when we're into court arenas. More recently, we are getting better at understanding other areas to gather information and evidence, because us actually getting a physical VRI, video recorded interview with somebody, which is an evidential account effectively, because we do it on a VRI because they're going to be a vulnerable victim. The amount of times we've done that, it's few and far between. The amount of cases that come through our team. So even to get that first important aspect within a case, to get that evidential account is it's very, very, very few, far between. So what we then have to do is we have to look at, what other evidential areas can we go to pull in information to show to a court. You may not have somebody standing up here to say I'm a victim. However, look at all this evidence we've got to show that they are a victim and they are being exploited. And that's a hard thing to do, because you're reliant on a lot of phone work, a lot of conversation history if you can find it, CCTV. You can go to use border agencies to show them coming in and out of the UK if they are coming in with these individuals. So we rely pretty much on building an evidential case to present to court without a victim. And no matter where we go with this, a court wants somebody standing there saying, this is what they did to me. Let me explain all the horrors that I've been through, because it's so much more impactful. So first port of call, often we fall down before we even get it to court. And those that do go to court, as we found out with our Op Silk, keeping on board 20 victims without anything undermining that's going to be shown at court is very, very difficult. They have got so many difficult situations and scenarios that are thrown in that it makes it so unfortunately so difficult to get a conviction. Lots and lots of different reasons, but they're just a few of them.
Yeah, it's really,
sad.
It is really sad for everyone, isn't it? But for the police that are doing all that work and evidence guidance, and then to not get anything at the end of it. But I suppose it is really just encouraging people, isn't it, to come forward and to speak out. And the more we can do that, the more this is going to get in the public domain, isn't it? Because it is really sad that we're getting, was that 15 convictions, I think?
15 convictions, and that's over a 4-year period. And if you went into any other department in the police, the conviction rate would be in the hundreds, maybe even into the thousands. I think the way our detectives, because they're all very skilled investigators, and the way they have to almost because again, you've got to think about they're spending months and months and months investigating some of these crimes, and they're not getting the positive outcome at court that they want. But actually, what we tend to do is we tend to go with the very pragmatic view of, we're not going to take the people off the street that we want to take off the street, but actually those that need safeguarding and protecting, we've actually done that. They're in a better place. They're not sitting in a shed in -2 degrees, living, eating tin dog food, which is occasions where we've come across individuals. We've now got them safely put up in in their own home up north somewhere, and they've got access to funding for various different courses, or they might be in a job. So that's the kind of win for us, is I guess that we've managed to safeguard and protect that person. However, don't get me wrong, we would love to lock the people up there doing it to them.
Okay. Nice to end on a positive there. Always look on the positive side. So
you've got to try.
Any other questions for Chris there? No, really good presentation. So thanks ever so much for sharing that with us, and I'm sure it'll be of interest to this board to come back in the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me. All right, have a good day.
Okay,
take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, on to our final item, item 14. So the LLR hate strategy statement, 2023 to 26 and delivery plan, pages 61 to 68. Anita, I think we've all had a copy of it, but I'll hand over to you for any highlights.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm taking the assumption that members have read the paper. So this is a refresh strategy statement, and it's been agreed by the LLR Hate Strategic Group, which is chaired by ACC Adam Street. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to come to present the paper today. So it includes, in terms of on page 1, an inclusive and a broad definition that's been provided through college and policing. So we've taken on board the recent changes that have come about, and in that you can see what the categories are in paragraph 2.3 in terms of what we have as the categories under hate, and then we've also under point 3 outlined the different kinds of elements that come under hate crime and hate incidents, so that members on this group are familiar with that. In terms of our vision, it's pretty much as said previously, that we want to strive for a tolerant society where differences are accepted and valued, and celebrate the communities that we have within our reach. We have got priorities that have been set under these themes. So in total, we have 7. For the first 4 are kind of the key main ones within the delivery plan that we have kind of pulled together through a small task and finish group. We've made them so that they the actions within the delivery plan are smart and realistic in terms of how we deliver across the LLR. And the latter 3 are cross-cutting themes, so they're built into the delivery plan that's attached to this paper as well. And the aim is obviously that within across all our partners, this is used as a overarching template, which district and boroughs and all the other different partners, unitary as well as fire and police, will then fork away and do the action from this plan and bring it back, so that there is high-end information in the delivery plan. What we have said at the hate strategic group that met this yesterday actually, and Rachel Burgess and David Walker are the district and borough reps on that group. We are going to, similarly like what we're doing with Prevent, bring a group together from our district and boroughs so that we can have a bit more close dialogue on how we want to move forward. And there is governance around this. So obviously on a quarterly basis, the intention is that we would bring updates to senior officer group, and on exception go to the exec group as and when it's required. So this is really just continuing with the positive work that we do around this area of work, and we wanted to bring it to the board so that people are aware that we've got a refresh plan for 2023-26. Happy for any questions, Chair.
Thanks, Anita. And Bob.
Thank you, Chair. I noticed from the membership and that probation aren't represented on this group, and I really think we should be. So unless anyone has objections, if you could add probation to membership with myself as member.
I will take that back and raise it with Adam Streets and get. Have you got? Who would you suggest to send the invite to?
To myself.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Any other questions on this paper? No. Okay. Thank you very much, Anita, for that. Okay, item 15, any other business? I don't have any other business. Anything from anyone else? No. Okay, I'm just checking the chat. I don't think there's anything in there. No. Okay, so the date of our next meeting is again the 29th of September after our domestic abuse board. So all have a good summer, and I'll see you in September. Thanks very much for your time today and our presenters. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Well.
Thank you.